Hello, I'm John Eagles. I used to work as a psychiatrist, but since retirement, I've become involved with the Temple Vitality and Temple V programs. This webinar is about glycemic index and glycemic load. I shall start with a couple of definitions. You have probably heard something about glycemic index, or GI, and glycemic load, or GL, and know that low GI carbohydrates are considered to be good and high GI carbohydrates are deemed to be bad. Glycemic index, as on the slide, measures in the average person, and we do all differ, just how quickly a carbohydrate containing food causes a spike in a person's blood sugar level. Glycemic load, on the other hand, measures the size of the spike, and as such, it can be thought of as more important than glycemic index. A tiny portion of bread, for example, would have the same glycemic index as 4 slices of bread, but the glycemic load would differ hugely. So, for simplicity, I shall just discuss glycemic load in most of the rest of this presentation. So what, you might say? Spikes in blood sugar, their size and duration, why do they matter? In health, the body will only tolerate the blood sugar being kept within a very narrow range. So any spike in our blood sugar triggers a release of insulin, and big sugar spikes trigger higher spikes of insulin. Insulin rapidly forces the blood sugar to be taken up into our body to be used as energy, with any excess being converted into fat. This process will then lead to a subsequent drop in blood sugar, with higher insulin levels causing this to drop more quickly. This sudden drop stimulates hunger in order to drive you to eat so that you normalize the blood sugar. Low glycemic index foods do not, however, trigger this rapid insulin surge, so hunger returns more slowly. So, for these reasons, you can imagine that high GL foods can have a dramatic effect on our weight. And perhaps not surprisingly, people who eat low GL diets have been found to live longer, healthier lives. So, that is why minimizing the high GL carbohydrates is one of the central principles of the Temple Vitality diet, helping you to aim not only for slimness, but having an impact on your overall health. The main principles are listed on this slide, as you'll see, and there's a brief webinar discussing each of them. So, little or no ultra-processed foods, high fiber intake, adequate protein, healthy fats, and consuming a wide variety of plants. That is the basic package. So, we can consider carbohydrates as being healthy or unhealthy based on their glycemic load. The 3 slides that follow, however, do try to keep things simple, since cooking methods can influence a food's glycemic load. Boiling potatoes, for example, will decrease their GL as opposed to frying or baking them. We've produced a blog on the impact of cooking methods. As a general rule of thumb, unrefined carbohydrates have a lower glycemic load than refined carbohydrates. This means avoid eating white stuff, whether it is bread, pasta, or rice, and foods made using white flour and sugar. This necessarily includes cakes, cookies, and pastries. Sweet potatoes have a lower glycemic load than white potatoes. Some so-called healthy breakfast cereals, including muesli, can have a high glycemic load if they contain a lot of dried fruit or are sweetened. No added sugar does not mean it does not contain high amounts of so-called natural sugar. Watch out for fizzy drinks and sweetened dairy products. And then the foods that are okay but not wonderful from a glycemic load perspective, when the figure for the average portion is between 10 and 20. There is a clue in the name for two sweet vegetables, sweet corn and sweet potatoes. Some fruits are moderately high in carbohydrates, as you will see on the slide, and here are three of the healthier breakfast cereal options. Multigrain bread is a whole lot better than white bread, bagels and so on. So, what about the healthy stuff from a glycemic load angle? With only a few exceptions I've mentioned, fruit and vegetables are grand. Legumes are good too, as are seeds. Dairy products, that's milk, yogurt and cheese, have low glycemic loads, while fish, meat and eggs will score 0 on the carbohydrate glycemic load front. You can look at the list on this slide, and in fact it pretty closely matches the standard Mediterranean diet. As a quick summary, glycemic index and glycemic load describe the degree that a food induces blood sugar spikes. Frequent large spikes are to be avoided if possible, for the sake of staying slim and healthy. Educate yourself about the glycemic load of what you eat and try to major in the low glycemic load foods. Good luck.